Hello friends, welcome back to the session. So in this session, we will discuss about the ABAP programming structure. Like in real time, whenever we received any requirement to develop the applications, of course, we need to write the source code. Like if you're developing any application and for that, if you're writing any source code, like what should be the format for that source code? What are the set of data objects which we need to create? Like what is the meaning of data object? Like we discussed in the previous session, so data objects are nothing but the memory which is going to hold the data, and that is only during certain duration. That is a part of during the runtime. Like we discussed the variable, like with the help of data keyword, we supposed to declare the variable to hold the data during the runtime, or we can say that temporarily. So within the data object, we do have the different type of data objects like variable we can say. And here in this session, we are discussing about the work area and the internal table. These are the two more in the as a part of option we can say under the data object, work area and the internal table. So this work area and the internal table will be used during the application development. So the use of this work area and the internal table which will hold your data during the runtime, and the usage is very temporarily, means once your program execution has been started, it will hold your data, it will process your data, whatever the operation you are going to carry out. Once your execution has been completed, that will be rolled out automatically. It means that will be deleted automatically. So in this session, the agenda of these sessions, we will discuss about the ABAP programming structure, and also we will see how the data will be flow in three-tier architecture. As we know, SAP is a three-tier architecture. Like you do have presentation server, you do have application server, and you do have database server. Now we will discuss in this session like how the data is getting flowed in the three different server, and that during that flow we make use of this work area and the internal table that comes under the programming structure. So these are the part of data object which we supposed to develop. Now before I proceed with this, so I want to give you some scenario like hint. We do have the two different kinds of memory. One is permanent, which is available physically inside the database, and one is a temporary memory which we supposed to create during the programming development. Now here we are discussing about the programming. It means during the programming, whatever the data objects you are defining, those will be considered as temporary memory. It means the usage is very temporary. It will start during the execution and it will be rolled out once the execution is completed. But in certain situation, we also need to create the physical memory. So how to create those physical memory? We do have the different session for that we see in detail in the topic called data dictionary. So today here we are about to discuss about the overview about the ABAP programming structure and the flow of data in three-tier architecture. In that we do see the work area and the internal component. We will see two more options, and apart from this we will see a simple program, how to create a simple program in SAP platform. So we will take a tour about SAP platform as well. So we will start with ABAP programming structure. So if you look at, SAP has provided many standard data objects. I will divide into two parts. One with the predefined, which means which has been already provided by the SAP. And in another end, I will consider the user defined. Under the user defined, like if I go with the predefined, under the predefined, you do have the database table, which has already been provided by the SAP. Database table. Then comes with structure. SAP has already provided many standard structure. Then comes with table type. SAP has provided many standard table type as well. Type group, so on. I mean to say that SAP has already provided many standard data objects. Those are the part of database table, structure, table type, type group. There are few more also. And As a part of user defined, it means you need to create the custom one. See, here my focus is towards the programming. So here we are talking about the programming. Why I'm highlighting this word programming? See, whatever the memory we supposed to define, those are the two different kinds of memory. One with physical memory, which will be available physically inside the database. I can say DB. And one memory is a temporary memory, which will be available during certain situation, certain time limit. Once the execution is completed, that will be rolled out. Means it will be created automatically. Once execution is completed, it will be rolled out automatically. Such kinds of memory I can consider as a temporary, and such some kind of memory is a permanent, which is available physically inside the database. Now you can ask me, if I want to create the physical memory, how to create? And in this session, are we discussing about the physical memory or the temporary memory? Of course, it's a part of user defined, and that too in the programming. In the program level, whatever the data object we supposed to define, at the program level, whatever the data objects we supposed to define, those will be considered as temporary, because it will allocate the memory. Once the program execution has been started, it will be rolled out automatically. It means been deleted automatically once the program execution has been completed. That is a part of temporary. But some object which you need to store physically inside the database, such kinds are the part of predefined. Even you can also create such kinds of object. For that, SAP has provided the different application, and that application is, we can call as a ABAP dictionary, or we can say data dictionary. And the transaction code for these application is SE11. This is the transaction code. But here in this session, we are discussing about the temporary memory. So those are the work area. Next comes with internal table, structure, table type, etc. Now, if I compare these two, so database table is also a data object which can hold your data. Even work area and the internal table is also part of data object which can hold the data. But the difference between these two is database table is an object which will be available physically inside the database, and it will be remains there until unless you're going to delete it manually or explicitly. But under the user defined, during the programming, whatever the data object we are defining in the format of work area, internal table, so on, it is a temporary. It will be available only during the runtime. Once your execution has been started, it will allocate the memory, perform the operations, delete it. Again, once you receive the output, that will be rolled out, means deleted. Again, if you start the execution, again it will get allocated, means it will allocate the dynamically. That's the reason we can call it as a temporary. And these kind of object we are going to define by using the application. Like in SAP, if you want to develop the program, that program will be developed by using the application called ABAP editor. And for this, the transaction code is SE38. This is your T code. So with the help of SE38 or the application ABAP editor, we are going to develop the program to develop the application. And during the programming, whatever the data object we develop, we declare, we create, that is a temporary. So we will discuss. First, we go with this data object called work area, internal table, structure, and the table type. Later, we will come back to this predefined level. Like as we discussed, SAP has already provided mini standard table. Now, what if I want to create my own? How to create? And that object I want to store it physically inside the database. So that we will do by using the ABAP dictionary. That is a very huge topic. We will discuss in detail in the further session. So here we will discuss about the data objects, work area, internal table one by one. So first I will go with the work area. So if I go with the definition of this work area is a structure. It will be called as a structure. Structure is nothing but what? It is something like a group of fields. And what is the purpose of this work area? What it's going to do? It will hold the single record during the runtime. The job of this work area is to hold a single record during the runtime. Now there might be multiple questions where this work area is going to be created, for what reason it's going to hold a single record, why it's going to hold a single record. So the work area is the format which the work area is going to be created. It can hold up to only one row. Record means one row. Now before that, the definition of this work area is it is a structure, or it also known it as group of field. Do you know in previous session we discussed about the data keyword. In that we have declared the different objects like variable I can say. First I have declared the variable called name in bracket 20 type C. Then I have declared city in bracket 20. Then I have declared postal type C. Now, if you look at these objects, these are the individual objects. Name, city, postal are the individual variables. If you address, these are the individual variables. Means it can hold a single data. It means it will hold a single name, single city, single postal. Now, if these three variables are correlated, instead of addressing them individually, can I make a group of those? Now, for example, if you are running a school, let's assume you are running a school. And of course, the day by day, it's like if it is an admission season, then of course they are going to take admission years in particular like classroom, I can say. First standard, second standard, third standard. Now, suppose if these are taking the admission in particular standard, if it is a one, can we teach them individually? Like the first candidate has taken the admission, can we teach him personally? Second candidate has taken the for the same classroom, can we teach him personally? No. If they are belongs to the same session, like classroom, why can't we merge them? We can make a group of them, and we are going to address them group wise, same wise. So in certain situation, we need to work with group wise. Now these three fields or three field variable, I'm going to make a group, and that group we can call as a structure. In certain situation, like suppose if you go at the school level or in your academy level, you do have some events, you need to perform some event. In that situation, the event can be solo and that can be in group. It doesn't mean that all the group members belongs to your same session, same classroom or same. We are going to pick a like valid person and we are going to make a group of them and we are going to represent the group. We are not, if you are performing in a group, then you are going to represent in the group. You are not going to represent you personally. That is what. If there is a solo performance, you can give it solo. That is a part of single variable. But if you need the collection of information, multiple information, then we are going to make a group of that. And that group is nothing but a structure. You can call it as a structure. Structure means it is a collection of fields. More than one field, more than one field, more than one person, we can say the group. Similarly, more than one variable, it will be called as a group. So work area always in group. It contains multiple fields. And the job of this work area is to hold a single record during the runtime. Once your program execution has started, it will allocate the memory. Whatever the data is coming across to the work area, the same it will forward to the next level. So that is the job of this work area. Now, what is the syntax? How to declare the work area? To declare the work area, we use syntax data. As we know, every programming structure in SAP ABAP, it will be declared by using data. It means with the data keyword, it will allocate the memory. Whatever the memory you are going to create, it will allocate the physical memory for that. Now here as a memory, we are creating the work area. It will allocate the physical memory. And every programming structure, like if I'm creating the work area and that work area is a structure and that structure, how we are going to like specify, how we are going to like, what is the start point? If you're drawing one line, if you're drawing one line, what should be your start point and there should be end point. It means the work area which creating, that is the start point. Means every programming structure should start with begin of. Now here we are creating the work area, and the work area, it can be represented with any name. Like while working with the programming, you need to follow some programming standard as well. As we know, we are creating the different data objects, maybe work area, in future internal table, then structure, then table type, so on. Now, what object you are creating, how to differentiate which object you might have created. Now, suppose you are the developer, you are creating, you are naming it, that's fine. But sometimes your program is going to be accessed by some other developer. How he should or she will get to know that what kind of data object you have created. With that name only, he or she should get to know that, right? So that is what the meaning of creating the work area in the internal table with some naming standard. We must follow the naming standard, right? So here I'm following the naming standard as WA, like it is as per the SAP. If you're creating the work area, W stand for work, A stand for area. Either you can start with W also, you can start with the WA. Then followed by, like if you want to differentiate between the two words, usually we supposed to provide the space, but here space will not be allowed. So we are going to differentiate it by using the underscore. Followed by, we supposed to provide the table name for which table you're working for. Usually followed by, we supposed to provide the table name for the table you're working for. So in real time, you might need to create the multiple work area for the same program. How you're going to differentiate those multiple work area? With some name, right? As we discussed, the starting variable, first or second character position is W or WA. Followed by, you can provide any name, but usually the followed by table name. So followed by, we supposed to provide the table name based on what you are creating this work area. That reference we are going to establish. Means it is not a mandatory, you can give any name, but it's better to give the proper naming standard. Now in this group, what are the fields you're expecting? I'm expecting customer ID in bracket 10, type C, name in bracket 20, type C, city in bracket 20, type C, and this is going to be end of work area underscore CUST. So I am creating the work area. So I'm creating the work area. That work area is start point is this, and this is the end point. And with what name you are defining the work area, it could be any name. It doesn't mean that you should start with some particular name only. No, but as we discussed, in real time, you need to follow some naming standard, coding standard, I can say. Once you get onboarded in any project, every client will be having their own coding guidelines, we can say. So they will provide you the documentation, you need to read those documents and you need to start working on the development. If they are not specifying, but if you look at some client, so they used to ask with, like if you are creating the variable, represent it with V. If you are creating the structure, please represent with S, right? And after that, you can have two kinds of memory, global and the local. Okay, local means it will be available only during some certain area. Global means it will available all the in everywhere within that program. So they used to say that if you are local, then start with L. If it is a global, then start with S. Global G, something like. Similarly, until unless they don't have any naming standard for your data object, then I would suggest you to create the work area in the name of starting with W or WA followed by any name. So with this syntax, we are creating the work area. So this contains three fields, customer, name, and the city. Now you can ask me, what will happen if I declare this syntax? As we know, SAP is a three-tier architecture. Now here we will see how the data will get flow. Flow of data in three-tier architecture. So SAP is a three-tier architecture. So this is my presentation server. So assume this is my application server. And this is my database server. And we also am specifying SAP is an independent database server being used. Means SAP is going to support all the third-party database. In the backend, it could be anything. It can be Oracle, it can be DB2, it can be Sybase, anything. We have nothing to worry. That is been already configured. So this is my presentation server. So presentation server is meant for providing the input and taking the output. This is my application server, and this is my database server. In the database server, we are going to store or secure the data. Like whenever we process the data through the application, ultimately it will store in the database. Now, in what format the data will be stored in the database? It will be always stored in the format of rows and the column. In the database, the data will be stored in the format of rows and the column. And that rows and column we can call as a database table, DB tab, database table. And assume we do have one of the table in database called Z customer. It could be in any name, but as a assumption, as a part of requirement, I'm assuming I do have one of the database table called Z customer. And in that, you do have the field called customer underscore ID. Then you do have name. You do have city. You do have some other fields too. Let's assume you do have the different fields in the table. And I'm assuming I do have around 100 fields in table. It can be any number. I'm assuming I do have 100 fields in table. Now what I wanted to do is I want to read the data from this database table to my presentation, because database is a third party. You don't have the direct control on the database. So you need to go from database to application and application to presentation. This is the flow actually. So that's the reason we discussed in SAP, the data will be flow in a three different server: presentation, application, database, or vice versa, right? In the database, the data will be stored in the row and column format. So we are taking one of the example as a Z customer. And in this table, you do have the data like 1000, 1001, 1002, 3 or so on, right? And something like customer names are, right? And the city something like, and there is some other information too. I'm considering only few for the requirement. Now what the customer is requesting, he want to bring all the data from database to presentation. Now he cannot directly bring the database to presentation. It must flow through the application. Now you can ask me why requirement of application. So that is a different session. You can, as a internal architecture of application server, I will go in detail why SAP come up with this third server as an application server. Like as we discussed in the history, initially SAP come up with the R1. All, like whenever we are executing the application, first step is loading, then it's going to be compile, interpret, execution, and perform the read and write operation. Initially, it was all steps were executing in single server. If you are doing all the activity in the same server, of course, the load on the server is going to be increases. It might be the chances of delay in response. If it delay in response, then loss to the business. So that's the reason SAP come up with the two-tier architecture in 1980s. He do have the two system, one with the server side, another with the presentation server side, nothing but the client side. So client is requesting the data, server is going to be response back by again loading, compiling, interpreting, execution. So even that was not so feasible. And again, it was a major drawback. So to improve with this, SAP come up with the three-tier architecture in the 90s, 90. And till day also, many clients are working with the R3 architecture only. But that is a different thing. SAP come up with its own database called HANA, but many clients are working with the three-tier architecture. So in the middle, we can see the application. In the presentation, we are writing the ABAP statement, but in the backend, you do have the database, how this communication is going to be established. That is a part of internal architecture of application server. We will have a separate session for this. But here, every read and write request, I'm talking about every read and write request must go through the application. Why? All the execution will be done in the application server itself, right? Now, the syntax which we define for the work area, begin of so and so, customer ID, name, city, end of. By with this syntax, what will happen? It will create a temporary memory in application server. By writing the above syntax, system will create a temporary memory. And the temporary memories are like customer underscore ID. You have declared the three fields in total: name and the city. The first column is customer, second column is name, third column is city. The sequence which you have considered, in the same sequence it will create the work area. This is your work area in the name of work area underscore CUST. Now you can ask me, is it mandatory to write work area underscore CUST? No. You can create with any name, but always prefer the meaningful name. As we discussed, you do have the different data objects: work area, internal table, it might be structure, it might be variable. Now, whatever the data object you have defined, how I need to be sure like you have created a work area or internal table or structure. So with that naming, as I told that if it is a variable, represent with V. If it is a structure, represent with S. If it is an internal table, represent with T. Now again, within this variable, you do have local and the global. If it is local, go with L, global local, L, global, G. Likewise. So it is a part of coding standard every client will have. If you don't have, then straightforward you can go with the WA. The WA stands for the work area. But followed by I have provided the CUST. Why CUST only? I'm working with the table called Z customer. It doesn't looks good, like it doesn't like giving the lengthy name, always having the short name. So I have considered just meaningful name called CUST. That was the meaning behind this. Now, if you look at this, what is the job of this work area? It will hold a single record during the runtime. I told you that directly from database, you cannot bring the data to the presentation. You must go through the application. So once your data from database is coming to the application, and that data will be within limited time, he will hold the data during certain time, and after that, that data needs to be moved to the presentation. Now, at till what time the data is like residing in application server, locating, in that till that time, you need some temporary memory to hold the data. Suppose if you're traveling from, like if you're going with the client visit, if you're traveling from India to some other countries, especially Europe or US, I can say, you do have very direct flight, very rare direct flight. But most of the time you need to go with the connecting flight, maybe from India to some Abu Dhabi. And that is totally depends upon the airlines which you are preferring. And from there to the destination. Suppose if you are going with the Emirates, so of course it will go with the Dubai. So from India, it will take you to the Dubai. From there to, you need to change and you need to go with the next connecting flight. So he is taking you to the Dubai. He is going to drop you over there. You need to halt some time. Actually, you're not going for the Dubai, but you are not going, looking for some other country. You need to halt some for some time. And for that, you are going to have some waiting hall for you. Long we can say, right? So that is something like your work area. You're waiting for some time. You do have immediate connecting flight. But what is the time gap you do have? For at least for that time gap, you need some area to be seated, to wait. So that is something like your work area. The job of work area is whatever the data is coming from database to application, and of course immediately he need to move to the presentation. But at least for some time, so whatever the time he is residing over here, till that time he needs some temporary memory to hold the data temporarily. So that job is going to be fulfilled by the work area. So let me give you some another scenario. Like construction, building construction. So there are two different approaches in the town level, or if you go with the metropolitan city level, the different approach, but concept is remain same. Suppose I want to construct two storage building. So suppose this is my ground floor and I want to construct two storage, and all my raw material is over here. whatever the sand, cement, blocks, whatever the raw material you want to use for construction, everything is at the ground floor. First, you need to be prepare your basement, add the column, complete the ground floor. So they have completed the ground floor. Now they need to further go to the first floor to construct the first floor. Now whatever the raw material you do have over here, you need to bring all the raw material to the first floor. If I assign this task to the single person, how much time he will take, right? Now instead of this, if I assign this task to the multiple person, like for example, one person is standing at the bottom, nothing but at the ground floor, and one person is standing at the first floor. And I might you have observed this one. They are going to create one temporary area. In that temporary area, the one more person is going to be stand over here. In that situation, he is going to transfer the data from ground floor to that middle in the person who is standing, and from there it will go to the top floor. How easy your job will be. If sub ground floor person is directly transferring to the first floor person, is it easy? You need some additional stuffs. Same way. Now I can say the ground floor person is nothing but the database server. This raw material is a table. The person who is standing at the first floor, that's nothing but your presentation server. This temporary area which he has created, that is something like your work area. Sorry, temporary area which he has created, that is your application server. And that person is nothing but your work area. The job of this work area is to receive a single data from database, transfer it to the presentation. Again, he will look for the database for the next record, get it and transfer it. This is how the process will work. It means we need to read the single data from database to work area. From there, we need to bring the data to the presentation. So this is how your job will work. So you cannot but directly bring the data to present database to presentation. Of course, through application only you need to bring. Now, why we are going to the application every time, that we will discuss in detail during the internal architecture of application server. Now, what system need to do? You need to pick a single record. The system needs to pick a single record from database to application server in the work area, and from there he will transfer it to the presentation. Now the question is how to bring, what is the approach? And for that we need to write the select statement. To bring the data record by record from database to work area, and from there to transfer, we use select. Select. What we are selecting, what we are fetching? Three field, customer ID, name and the city. Customer underscore ID, then go with the name and the city. From where you are fetching? From your table Z customer. Into where you are fetching? CUST. That's it. Now you can ask me, does it mean he pick all the record at the same time and transfer? No. The capacity of work area is to hold a single record during the runtime. Now you can ask me exactly which record he will pick. Always it will go in FIFO mode, as we know the stack concept. First in, first out. He will pick the first value, followed by second, so on. And while placing, it will place lastly. Add it lastly. So what is your first record in the database? So your first record in the database is 1000. So with that select statement, it will pick the first record, and this is somewhat Delhi, right? And from here, it should transfer, like we are displaying in the presentation. And to display the statement in presentation, what keyword we need to use? A write, which we have already discussed in the last session. Write. So write is a keyword which will be used to print the statement in the output. And with this key column, chain operator, we are going to display the multiple statement. Now, work area underscore CUST is a structure or a group of field. It's a group name. Now, from that group, you are going to print in one by one statement. Your group name is CUST. Like suppose if you look at the cricket match, suppose the match is between the two different team, like India, somewhat Australia. Like the batting is going with the Australia, sorry, any one team I can say, Australia. Of course, opening two player need to be go. After out, next, after wicket, next player need to go. So we are calling one by one player. Now from this team, we are calling one by one person. So first person. So the work area underscore CUST, it is a complete one word, and to differentiate between the two keywords, you need to provide the underscore. Space will not be allowed. Now from this group, we are calling the first person, and that we are going to address by using hyphen. So this is a group name, and in that group, we are addressing the first person called CUST underscore ID, comma. Then from the same group, the second person, name. Now from the same group, the third person. Full stop. We don't have the further one. Now, how to conclude? Select is going to be end with end select. It means we have done with this. We need to again go to the database to pick the second record. Now, system is trying to print the statement one by one into the presentation. And we know the width of your output list. What is the width of your output list? 0 to 255 character. And we also know all the statement in SAP, it will start printing from left by one places. So customer ID will be printed in the first position. And what is the total length of your customer ID? 10 character, as we defined over here. Customer ID in bracket 10 means up to 10 length it can hold. So it might be chances like up to 10 character also you can receive the customer ID. So now I'm trying to print the second, that is a name. And of course we know all the statement it will start printing from left by one places. That might be chances of getting overlap. So we need to define the position. So next column should be printed at some other column, other position, like I'm providing 20. Any position you need to decide. And I am expecting the third column should be printed at the 40th position. So here I'm saying the first column at the first position, second column at the 20th position. So name is something like the third position at the 40, that is something like city. Likewise, up to 255 character only we can print the data, not beyond that. Right? Now what system will do? See here what he done. He selected the data from database to the work area. The system has selected the data from database to work area. So this is your work area and this is your database table name. So he has picked the first record to the work area, and from there he has transferred one by one. Customer ID, name, city, concluded. Now he need to pick the next record. As we look at over here, the example which we discussed, the ground floor person, the middle one, and the top floor. So ground floor person is transferring the data to the middle one, temporary area which you have created, and from there it going to the first floor. Again, that middle person will look at for the ground floor, looking for the next record. It means again he will go to the database. Again it will go to the database to pick the next record. The system again will go to the database to pick the second record. It means again your select statement is going to be executed. Again it will go to the database to pick the second record. As we discussed, it will work with first in first out. So first record was 1000, which has already been processed. Now he's looking for the next record. Next record is something like 1001. That is something like John, Pune. Now again, it has selected the data from database to your work area, means again this select statement executed for the second time. Now it will again move it to the presentation server, right? Again at the first position, customer ID will be printed. At the second position, the name will be printed. that is at the 40th position, and the third column will be printed at the third position called the column position is 40. Don't you think that data will be get overlapped? Already in the that row 1000 means first customer has been printed. Now you are trying to print the second customer. The position is fine, but don't you think that data is getting overlapped? Of course. Now what is the solution for that? My next data should go to the next line. In that situation, you need to use this symbol. That stands for new line. Means the data should be printed in the new line. It will work like a enter. It means the cursor will take to the next line. So it will print it in the next line. 1001 John and the Pune. Right? So in parallel, in the application server, one more memory will be get created. In parallel, in the application server, one more memory will be get created, and that memory we can call as a virtual page. Now, whatever the data is coming across to your work area, that data will copy to this virtual page. Now, two record has been come across to this work area. Those data will be copied over here. I will come to the point what is the meaning of virtual page once we printed all the data. Okay. Now we are at end select. Now again system will go to the database to pick the next entry. Right? It has come to the database to pick the next entry. Now it will transfer by executing the select statement, it will transfer the data to the work area. Now what is the next entry? It is something like 1002 Neha, Delhi. Now 1002. Now whatever the data is coming across to your work area, that will be get copied over here. Likewise, again it will go to the database, it will pick the next entry. So there are 5 record in the database. It means your 5 times select statement will be get executed, and each time he will bring a single record. Suppose you do have 10 entry in the database, so it will go 10 times to the database, and each time it will pick the single record and transfer it to the presentation. This is the job of your work area. So lastly, 1004. So again, it will go to the database. See, while picking the data, first it means while picking, it will going by one, going one by one. But while placing, he is going lastly. He is coming to the lastly. That is the meaning of first out. First in, first out. So last record is 1004. Right? Now I will come to the point called virtual page. What is the meaning of virtual page? See, you have executed this program, you have provided the input, and you have received the output. It means in the background, in the application server, whatever the work area has been created, that will be rolled out. Once you have received the output, this work area will be automatically deleted. Now again, if you start execution, again that work area will be allotted, and each time it will do the same process. Now the reason behind this virtual page, actually we don't have the direct control on this virtual page. That will be created automatically by the system, and this configuration will be set by the basis consultant. And the lifespan of this virtual page will be 48 to 72 hours. It could be anything, but not longer than this. The lifespan of virtual page is 48 to 72 hours, not more than this. What is the use of this? Now first time you have executed the program, the data which is coming to the work area, coming across to the work area, that has been copied for the future reference. It means that if the same report you are running again for the next time, then it never directly go to the database. In the application server itself, you do have one temporary memory which has been created in the name of virtual page. First, the system will look at for, do we have that requested data available in this virtual page? If yes, he will respond back to the presentation. So we have avoided to visit the database. With this, it will improve the performance. So this virtual page will hold your data for next 72 hours. Maximum, I'm talking about. So this time limit could be anything set by the basis. And that time limit between up to 72 hours. It can be anything. 8 hours, 22 hours, 25 hours. It could be anything. But maximum time limit is 72 hours, right? So suppose for the last 72 hours, if you have not executed that report again, it means after 72 hours, it will be get deleted automatically. If you run the same report at the 73rd hour, then again virtual page is going to be reinstalled. Means it is going to be recreated and again it will hold the data which is coming across to your work area. So this is a complete overview of your work area. Now let's see how to create the table. Sorry, the creating the table we will see in the different session, but we will see how to generate a simple program. So working with creating a simple program. So whenever I open the SAP screen, so initially you can see this. Whenever I open the SAP logon screen, so this is the first page which we used to see. This we can call as a logon pad, SAP logon pad. Now if you ask me how SAP tool look like, if I go with the start window, can you see this one? So this is the latest version of SAP. So that the reason icon is something like this. But if you go with the previous version, the latest version is 7.6, 7.8 something, and that is a part of NetWeaver we can say. But if you go with the SAP GUI, we can call as a GUI interface for the SAP tool. SAP GUI is a graphical interface for your SAP tool. And if you go with the previous version, like before 7.5, the icon is something different, which is a combination of yellow and the blue. I will show you that too as well. If I double click on this, you will get this screen. You will get this. This is a part of logon pad. And I told you that in the system landscape, if you recall, just don't confuse between the three-tier architecture and the system landscape. Three-tier architecture is something different. System landscape is something different. Now, once you onboarded in any client, so they will give the KT, like what is our system landscape, what are the set of servers we do have, right? So this is a list of systems connections which they're currently holding. So these are the list of connection in my client or in my system. Now in that, which one is my development, which one is my quality, and which one will be my production? That KT will be given by the manager itself or any senior lead from your team. But here I'm considering this my first connection will be is my development system. Now once I double click on this, once I double click on this, so this is my logon page. Once I double click on this, it will take you to the logon page, right? Now here I'm providing the username, something like, so they will create the individual credential for you. They will always create you the individual credential, username and the password. So I will make a fit to the screen. Okay, it will something look like this. Now, here I'm providing the username. Now, what is the meaning of this client? We will see in a separate session, that too under the data dictionary topic. Now here I'm providing the username. You do have the individual credential for each system. Like if you are opening any new account in the Gmail, you do have the individual credential. Same wise in SAP system also, every server, development, quality and the production, you do have the individual credentials. So here I'm providing the username and the password. Something like whatever the password you are holding, you need to pass the password. So I'm passing. So once after providing the password, so here four things. One with the client, what is the meaning of client? Here you are finding the default value something. What is the meaning behind this default value? We will discuss in detail. Then language, in which language you want to log in. Like in the globe we do have the different country. Each country will be having the unique language to communicate. So here we are logging in the English language. If you want to log in some different language, you need to pass the language. but here I want to log in the English language. If I click on enter, so it will take you to the SAP screen. So this is my SAP initial screen, the very first, like if I entering into someone home, the very first place which I can see, hall, right? Or sit out we can say. Same way, whenever we enter into the SAP system, this is my initial screen. And that initial screen we can call as SAP queue screen. This initial screen we can call as SAP queue screen or SAP easy access screen, right? And the transaction code, we have already discussed about the transaction code. So transaction codes are nothing but a shortcut code provided by the SAP. And if you run this shortcut code, what will happen? It will run a corresponding program and it will open a respective screen. Like in a, in our local system, we do have the different application, right? And of course, we need to work with the different application. Maybe it may be Paint or Word document, or it can be any notepad, you know. But the application which you're accessing frequently, you're making that is shortcut to your desktop. In your mobile phone also, the application which you're accessing frequently, you can make a shortcut to your desktop or maybe home screen. Same way, the applications which we develop or which developed by SAP, every application has provided some shortcut code. SAP has provided shortcut code to every application. So by running that shortcut code, it will run that specific application and it will show you the corresponding screen. Like which now I want to create the program. And for that program, SAP has provided the application called ABAP Editor. That application called ABAP Editor. And to run that application, SAP has provided the transaction code called SE38. Most of the transaction code has started with SE only. So SE stands for Society as European. The SE stands for Society as European. But if you go with the Indian language, it's represented as System Engineer. Most of the T code names start with SE only. Either if you pronounce with the Europe German country, society is European because SAP is German oriented. If you pronounce with the Indian, it can be called as a system engineer. So SC38. If I click on SC, if I provide the SC38, and this area we can call as a command line, where we are going to pass the shortcut code. Command line. Just pass this one and click on enter. It will open the screen for you. Now this screen is a part of ABAP editor. Can you see? ABAP editor. Now here we need to create the program. Now as we know, in SAP if you are developing any object, it can be program, it can be screen, it can be table, anything. Every object must be start with either Z or Y as per SAP rules. If you are starting any object except Z or Y, it will ask you the access key. And of course, we are going to provide the meaningful name. Now, suppose the report which I'm working for that is related to the customer and someone has requested to develop the report. So what naming standard I should prefer? Meaningful, like something like customer report, right? And if I click on create option, you can see I'm going to click on create. What message you have received? He's asking you the access key. It is always a 14-digit unique keyword, which is something like a permission from SAP. So we never grant you. Okay, so for that, we need to follow the naming standard. So I'm starting with same object name, but starting with either Z or Y. First character should be either Z or Y followed by any name. Now I'm going to click on create option. So as soon as if I click on create option, you will get this pop-up. Now this pop-up stands for the program which you are creating. What kind of program is this? Either we do have the different type like executable, include, model pool, subroutine pool, function group, so on, so on. Now among these program, the main program is executable. Like if you want to set up any application in your laptop, or if you want to install any new app, maybe in mobile phone or laptop, have you ever imagined as a developer point of view? Those software will be the part of executable. Those are the part of setup file, and that file type always will be the .exe. So how that .exe will get created? Because of the program time executable. In SAP also, whatever the program you are creating, if you are selecting the program type as an executive program, here also it will create a .exe file in the name of your program name.exe. It means your program can run independently. If you are selecting any type apart from executable, it may be include model pool function, you never get the output. No. Apart from executable program, no program can run independently. Only the executable which runs independently. So because it will create a .exe file in the background. And here also we need to provide the title. What is the meaning? What is the purpose behind providing the title? Like see, whenever we receive the output, so this is the output which we supposed to receive. Whenever we receive the output, some title we are expecting over here. Like above this, I need some title. Now what this output is stands for, what this data stands for, that is a part of your some report, the analysis, the list. The same we can get it by using providing the title. Something like I'm providing, this is a report for customer list, anything, right? And in the first session, we discussed about the package as well. Maybe during the first or second, we discussed about the package as well. Once after development, your object needs to be traveled through development to quality, quality to production. Now, who is going to decide either my object should transportable or not? That is because of the save concept. So while saving the object, he will give the two options. Now I'm going to click on, there are other options too, but this is the initial we will discuss in the future. You just see original language by default it is considering the EN who has or who is creating this program, what is the date, somewhat time, everything will be noted it down. Then you do have the status, application, so and so many things, right? So I'm going to click on save. While saving, you will get another pop-up. Here you do have two things, one with the package, another with the local object. You do have two options. Now, before I proceed with this, the clarification is once after development, now whatever the program you are developing, once after development, do you want to carry this development to the next server called quality? From there you want to take it to the production? If yes, then you need to save your object in a package. Okay, provide your package name. Package will be created only once during the entire life cycle of your project, and that will be created by the developer who is joining very first to the project. Or sometimes you might also get the chance to create the package. And the package will be created with a different process that we'll see in the different session. And once after providing the package, you need to click on save option. If you are storing the object in a package, you need to click on save. So as soon as if I click on save option, it will generate a 10-digit request number. That request number we can call as a transport request number, which will carry your developed object from development to quality, quality to production. But my here, whatever the program I'm developing, it is just a practice purpose, dummy program. So no need to transport it later point of time. In that situation, go with the local object, which cannot be transportable. Click on local object. So this is my editor screen. So SAP code editor screen is very beautiful, which is will be in the combination of 6 colors. Already you are seeing in two different color, blue and black. There is a different colors like you do have green also, you do have some light blue, you do have red also, and the green. So there is a gray, one more color is a gray. So there are total 6, blue, black, red, gray, light blue and the green color. Rest of the color combination is fine. If you come across with the red, somewhere if you're finding the red, it means straightforward you do have the error in your program or error in that particular line. So the line which is populating with the red color, it means it's a error line. So that easy to address. Otherwise, you do have the different options to check the syntax in your program. Only when your program is syntax free, then only you can able to activate and you can generate the output. Otherwise, no. Right? So here you can see the line number. Here you can see the line number. Even at the bottom, you can find the column position. I will show in the next session. So every like, if you want to differentiate between the notepad and the Excel sheet, how you're going to differentiate? Notepad is completely plain. But there you can find at the bottom, you can observe line position and the column position always. Right? With that, we'll get to know that what is my cursor position. But if you go with the Excel sheet, there is no any confusion. Already the file is itself in the template is itself in the column and the row format. Easy to identify. But here you need to go with the row position and the column. Your cursor is in the third position, third row, but your cursor column position is first position. But if I go with the space, it is the second position, third position, fourth, likewise. Now, if I write the star in a first position and followed by if you're writing any statement, that will always in a gray color. And that gray color stands for commented line. You know, like once after writing the program, you're going to activate it. And once we click on execute, that is going to be compiled by the compiler. It will compile all the statement one by one. But suppose I don't want to compile any specific line that I want to keep hidden from the compiler. How you are going to do it? By providing the star in a first position, that entire line will be considered as commented line. It means that will not be identified by the compiler or that will not be compiled by the compiler because that statement will be hidden from the compiler. Okay. So whenever you are developing the program, always keep four important points in mind. First, we need to provide the tables declaration. It means you need to specify that what are all the tables you are working for. Suppose if you are staying with your friend in a rented or shared room, and of course you are a close friend, if you are using any stuffs belong to your friend, maybe your mobile phone, something bike, and you are having the urgent need. Of course, might be he is your close friend, but you are going to intimate him. I'm going to use a mobile. I'm going to use a bike. Same way. What are all the tables you're working for? It's not a mandatory, but you must, right? You need to declare the tables or like what are all the tables you're working for. So I'm working with the tables and the table is going to be declared by using the keyword tables itself. And the table is something like Z customer. Now before I declare, I need to be sure like does any table has registered with this name or not. Without knowing, we cannot proceed. Let's check first. Now you can open in another session in parallel. Just remain this session is open. I will open another session. In that I will check it. So to open any alternative session, you can click on this new GUI windows. Can you see new GUI windows? Click on that. It will open another empty session. Now in that I will write SE11 like database table. I'm checking for the database table in the database, and for that application is ABAP editor or ABAP dictionary or data dictionary, and for that transaction code is S11. Now there are many standard table provided by the SAP or some of the table created by the developer like we in the previous. Like suppose what if I want to create my own table, then there is a separate session for this. Now I'm looking for the table Z customer. So Z customer is not available in this name. So we'll go with a different name. Yes. So instead of going with the example Z customer, I will go with the example called ZS0 underscore customer. Okay. So here I'm providing. Now if you look at in this table around 11 columns. In this table there are around 11 columns, but I don't want to work with all the columns. Only like customer ID, name and the city. Only 3 columns I need to work for. In that situation, you need to define your own work area. Okay. You can say work area or you can say data object declaration. And that is my work area. See, suppose if I remove this star from the first position, what will happen? It should show in the combination of blue, black or anything. But ultimately this will be compiled by the compiler. Only when if your program get activated. But this is not a proper keyword which you have written. This is just a comment line. So that's the reason, even though if you place the star in the second position, it will not work. It should be in the first position only, like this. Then only it will get commented, otherwise no. Now I'm create to create the work area, data, begin of work area underscore CUST, followed by the fields like customer underscore ID in bracket 20 type C, name in bracket 20 type C, and the city in bracket 20 type C, and this is going to be end of CUST. The very first point is table declaration. Second point is data object declaration. Once you're done with this, now you are going to extract the data. That is a part of extraction logic. Provide extraction logic. It means you need to select the data from the database. So in the database, the field sequence could be anything. Might be customer ID in the first position, city in the second position, and the name could be in the third position. In the database, field sequence could be anything. You don't need to go with the database level, but you need to always fetch the data in a sequence which you have defined under the data objects. Always keep in mind. You need to always fetch the data in a sequence, the sequence which you have defined under the data objects. Don't go with the sequence as per the database. Maybe in that sequence only you can define the data object, but always fetch the data in a database sequence. Sorry, the data object sequence. Suppose in the database, your first field is customer ID, and the second field is something like city, and the third field is something like name. Let's assume. And you are trying to fetch the data in a sequence which has been defined in the database table, but that is wrong. But you always need to fetch the data in a sequence which you have defined under the data object. Here it's the customer ID first place, name second place, city. Then from where you are fetching the data, table name. Into where? Work area. Now where is your data? It's in work area. And from there we need to bring it to the presentation. Like customer underscore ID at the 25th position, name, and at the 50th position you can provide any position that is a part of system. And the select is going to be end with end select. Now suppose if I miss comma somewhere, let's assume I'm missing the comma. Can you see this name in red color? Just observe. Name is in the red color. Even though if I miss this full stop, can you see this data keyword in the red color? Just in that line or just before that line, you do have the error. That does it mean. So color combination is very beautiful. So I'm providing the comma. Always check the status of your program. What is the status of your program? It is an inactive status. So if you want to run the program and if you want to get the output, so always check the status. So every program need to be saved first. First you need to save your program. Then after that you need to check the syntax in your program. Either your program is syntactically free, error free. If everything is okay, then we need to activate. Once it is get activated, then you can process or you can say execute. However, you'll get the options over there, but still if you want to do with the shortcut way, then you can go with CTRLS plus S for save, CTRL plus F2 for syntax check, then CTRL plus F3 for activate, and to run the report, select F8. Okay, so here, just next to the command line, you do have the save option, Control plus yes. So your program has been saved. Thereafter, I am going to click on syntax check. Can you see? Under ABAP editor, you do have some set of buttons in the next row. The two weighing like symbol, syntax check. Click on this. Actually, you will get the message at the bottom, but here there is some resolution issue. Might be able to show in the next session. Can you see at the bottom? No syntax error found. Okay. Now, if I click on activate, this is the activate. Next to syntax check, there is the activate button. Click on this, you will get the pop-up. See, there are two tabs. One is a transportable object, one is the local object. So it means your object will get segregate. The transportable, like once you save the object in package, it will become the transportable. It means later point of time, these objects need to be transported, carry out. So that will be saved under the different section. and the object is which you want to be stored locally within the same system, means which you don't want to be transportable. That is in the different compartment called local object. So currently your object under the local object, and that is being getting activated. Just click on enter. So your program gets activated. What is the status? Okay, suppose there is an error in my program. I'm just missing the comma here at the line number 8. If I click on syntax check, can you see the error? Unable to interrupt, unable to interrupt name in bracket 20. So system is unable to interrupt this line. Why? The possible cause of error, incorrect spelling or comma error. Either spelling is incorrect or maybe you have missed the comma. He is specifically showing either spelling mistake or comma error. So we missed the comma. Now again click on syntax check. No syntax found. Click on activate. Now if I click on execute, this is my output. So he is bringing the data from database showing in the output list. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the 5 records which is available in the database. So each time he is going to the database, picking the single record, transferring it. And the title which we have provided, this is a title, heading. And that is a mandatory field. Now you can ask me, the graphical level, the flow of data in the 3-tier architecture which we have discussed, can I see at the screen level? Definitely, that with the help of debugging. So that is maybe our next to next session. So we will discuss this is your work area. Similarly, we do have another data object called internal table. So that we will discuss in the next session. And after that, we will discuss how, like I want to see physically how my data is getting flow in the screen level. Here you have shown me the graphical representation, but I want to see at the screen level. So that is a part of debugging, and the debugging is the most important part of programmer life. Not only programmer, every consultant. No, like especially functional and the tech. ABAPer, of course, he should know, but along with the ABAPer, some other like functional should also know about the debugging. So it's a very important. Means at the screen level, you can see how the data is getting flowed. Right, so this is our next session. So in the next session we will cover about the internal table and followed by the debugging. Thank you for the session. We'll see you again.